So tell me about how you got into sports as a kid, because I know grandma and grandpa weren't big into sports. That's what I have come to learn.
Well, it all started back when I was a kid growing up in Cherrywood. Um, there was a vacant lot, and all the older boys would meet and play football. And I wanted to play, but I was too scared to ask. So I'd ride my bike up there, and I'd just sit and watch them. And I'd come home, I'd tell my mom would say, "You just need to go up and ask." And so finally I got the courage, and I did. And I loved playing football. I was the youngest kid in the
How
neighborhood.
old? How old were they compared to how old you were you?
I was probably 8 maybe, and they were a couple years older, 10 to 12 years old. So then I just started playing then. And then in 1976, the University of Northern Iowa built the UNI Dome. And we went to a high school game there because all the high school, Cedar Falls High School, played all their home games there. And I remember telling my mom, "I'm going to play in this dome."
So you
And
would have been like 10? Was it 76, 77?
76, I would
So
have
you
been
would have
11. Yeah. And my mom's like, "Yeah, whatever."
Okay. So that's how it kind of.
So yeah, then obviously I played football in the neighborhood. Then in fifth and sixth grade, growing up, they had flag football, and I played flag football, and I just loved it, obviously. And I kind of fell into the quarterback when I was a sixth grader. I was a running back as a fifth grader. Then sixth grade, I wanted to be quarterback, and then I kind of played quarterback then through seventh, eighth, ninth, tenth, all the way. The rest of the way, I played quarterback.
Growing up, who did you root for? Who were your teams? Who were your
Oh,
favorite players?
well, Fran Tarkington was by far my favorite player. The Vikings. Yeah, that's who I wanted to be. And then when I got a little bit older, Art Schlichter was the quarterback of Ohio State. And I took a fancy to him, which wasn't one of the best choices I ever made because he got messed up in some illegal gambling and things like that. But as far as a player, I liked watching him play.
I've actually never heard of that name before.
Oh, yeah.
It's, when you think of like, so I'll just say before high school, like what is like a memory you think of, like an actual sports memory, actually playing a game? Like what's one that kind of sticks in your mind of like?
Oh, I got a lot of them. But one time we were in ninth grade, we were playing. I don't know who we were playing, but I remember a pass play was called. We called it 3 times in a row, and I remember begging my offensive line to block somebody because I would take the snap, get back, and then I'd get pummeled. I'd just get creamed. And I remember coming back to the huddle, screaming at them, telling them just to block somebody. Yeah, we eventually did well, but that was a tough day.
So getting into high school, what sports did you play in high school?
I played football, basketball, baseball, and track up until my senior year. And then finally, my senior year, I just played football, and that was it.
Why did you stop your other sports?
I knew I had a future in football, and I just wanted to focus on football. Basketball, my junior year, I didn't go out my junior year, and I was challenged by the head basketball coach. We had what was called, they called open pit, and it was the season between football and when basketball season started. And it was just, they would be captains, and they would draft their team. And my sophomore year, my buddy Andy, he drafted me because they do the varsity starters are the captains. He drafted me, and we won the championship, and we beat Mike Flagg's team, who at that time he was going to be a senior. He ended up playing tight end at the University of Iowa.
Oh yeah.
He was a very good athlete, and I remember I blocked
So
his shot.
He wasn't supposed to win.
We weren't supposed to win. Championship game, I blocked his shot, took it down the other end and dunked it. And the varsity head coach was there, and the principal was there watching because it was the championship game. And the next day, the principal said, "You need to go talk to the varsity basketball coach." I'm like, "What for?" He goes, "Oh, you just need to go talk to him because I've already said I wasn't going to play."
Uh-huh.
Then the part about this story is the varsity basketball coach looked at me and he said, "Basketball can do without you, but can you do without basketball?" Well, when he challenged me like that, I had to prove to him that I could do without basketball. So I didn't play, and my buddy Andy was always mad at me because he said, "We could have won a state title if you would have played with us." But I was too stubborn to do it for the team. I did it for me because I was challenged.
Do you regret that?
A little bit. If I could, I'd love to go back to that day all over again and tell that coach, do you realize that's not how you motivate me? That may be how you motivate others, but that's not me. And that kind of stuck with me.
Okay. So then you also played baseball. What position did you play? What just tell me about baseball in high school?
Baseball in high school, we had a varsity team. It was made up of usually all seniors and juniors. Went to a large high school, 465 kids in my graduating class. Underclassmen usually didn't play. When I was a sophomore, I was on the sophomore squad. I was a shortstop, and I usually batted leadoff. I led the team in home runs.
So you were Brian Dozier?
Yeah, sort of.
Or no, Brian Dozier's you.
Yeah, yeah. And then when I became a junior, I was a starter on the varsity. I was the only junior that started varsity.
What position?
Shortstop. But my coach batted me ninth. And that just killed me. He told me, I need you to be another leadoff hitter in the ninth hole. Well, growing up, the worst kid always batted ninth.
Oh, yeah.
Always. That just demoralized me. And it was just terrible. And so I got through my junior year. Again, I then, there's another kid called Taylor Pine. He played second base. Kind of midway through the year, we'd kind of switch back and forth between second and short. Sometimes he'd play short. Sometimes I'd play second. But I played. I was the only junior that played. And at the end of the year, I said, I'm not doing this again.
But just think you probably would have been. Do you regret that?
Yeah, probably.
Because you would have been the senior, and I don't know
Right.
if the coach is going to be the senior bets first or whatever.
Right.
So just like I asked before, who's your favorite like baseball team or like people that you like to watch play? Like you kind of try to mimic your game after.
Well, when I was really young, when I first started playing baseball, my very first team I played on, we were the Reds, the Cincinnati Reds. And Davey Concepcion was the shortstop, and the big red machine.
So that's you.
So I was obviously a big fan. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first started playing baseball, you know, it was back then in the day, you were lucky to get cleats. Baseball pants, we didn't have baseball pants. I wore blue jeans. Most kids wore shorts, but I told my mom, I can't wear shorts because I slide all the time. I was stealing bases. I was diving for
How
balls.
old was this? How old were you?
This would have been elementary, late elementary, so 5th, 6th grade. And then when you get to 7th grade, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, you're drafted and you stay on that team. 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. Our 7th grade year, we won the championship. 8th grade year, we won the championship, and we weren't supposed to win it because all the big studs were gone. And then my 9th grade year, we won the championship. So we had a great team. Myself, Andy Seichter, who was my best friend, I either pitched, caught, or played short. Andy would do pitch, catch, or short. And then we had Steve Oberdall, too. He would do some catching and some pitching, and he'd play outfield. But we were good. And I remember one time, I always... Every team I was ever on, I always led them in home runs. And we were playing a game, and I was in 9th grade. I hit a home run, first time up in the inning. And I got up again. And Andy Seichter's sitting on the bench, and he tells the guys, if Rick hits a home run on this pitch, I'm going to go out and crap on the pitcher's mound. I hit a home run on that pitch. He still owes me a crap on the pitcher's mound.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. So then getting into, well, first let me ask, out of the two, which one did you like more basketball to play, basketball or baseball?
Baseball.
Yeah. So then now getting into football, when did you actually start playing? And did you play anything other than quarterback?
I started playing organized football when I was in 5th grade. Then when I got to 7th grade, I played football, I played quarterback, and I played safety. I was always a quarterback every year. And then 9th grade is when I only just was playing quarterback. 10th grade as a sophomore, just quarterback. And then when I got to varsity, because again, the whole varsity was you juniors and seniors. Sophomores didn't play varsity. We had 100 kids on our varsity team, 100 kids. But going into my junior year, they were kind of expecting me to be the starting quarterback, and senior dominated team. We go to a football camp. I was in Cedar Rapids doing drills on like the first day, and this is like a week or two before our football camp started for the season. I broke my thumb. So I broke my thumb, so I couldn't practice. I couldn't do anything. I missed the first weeks of practice. I came back just before our very first game of the year, and so they gave the senior the starting nod. I got to play. My first game I played, I actually played as wide receiver. They just wanted to get me in the game, so I ran in, gave the play to the quarterback. They didn't throw me the ball or nothing. But then the second game, I got to go in and play quarterback. But then throughout my junior year, our team was number 1 in the state all year long. We didn't lose a game until the state championship game. But I would go in, I'd throw a pass, usually a touchdown pass. I'd go back sit on the bench. Yeah.
They just didn't think that you could do, because obviously you guys didn't lose a game. The quarterback before he was doing okay.
He was doing okay, but they didn't ask him to throw it much. We ran the veer and the option. He was a running quarterback, so we were just so good
that you didn't need to.
Yeah, and the coaches didn't want to mess it up. I mean, I don't blame him. You're winning. Why would you switch your quarterback, especially when you got a guy that can come off the bench, come in, throw a touchdown pass, goes back out, puts in the senior again? It's like, whatever.
I don't even know this question. How athletic were you? Were you quick? Were you fast?
Yeah.
Or
oh yeah, I could.
Were you just as good of a running quarterback as he was?
Yeah. Well, when my junior year, we also had a JV team, and I'd lead the team in rushing and I'd lead the team in passing because I could read the veer. And you know what a veer is? You got a fullback that dives, you're reading the tackle, and then you pull it, and then you got a pitch option.
Mm-hmm.
I'd fake the pitch and I'd go out the end of the end zone. When I was a senior, I'll never forget this game. We were playing Cedar Rapids Kennedy, and the coach said, "Hey, we were beating them up pretty good." And the coach said, "Hey, do you want to come out yet?" I said, "No, I want to get a pass to my tight end because my first string tight end broke his collarbone. So then the second string tight end was in. He was a good friend of mine. He started out as a quarterback, then he moved to tight end. And I said, no, I want to get Poe a pass. So I was able to throw him a pass, and then we ran the veer, and I took it 57 yards to the house, and then I spun the football in the end zone. It's illegal to do that. I got a flag for that. But I was pretty proud of that. So then I didn't play the rest of the game because it was pretty much over.
Yeah. So that's obviously a good one. What's a good memory from your high school football? Like a play or
Again, I have a lot of them. There's a lot of good ones, and then there's some that aren't so good. Most of them are all touchdown passes. Chris Lilly was my wide receiver as a senior against Marshalltown. It was homecoming weekend, and I do have a regret there. We did a snake dance on Thursday night, and we did a pep rally, and I got up and said something that I probably shouldn't have said, and so I got in trouble for that. So I was called into the principal's office the next morning, and they made me sit there and wait. I don't know what they were thinking, but they came in and they said, okay, here's the deal. Either you don't play in the football game, you don't go to the parade, or you don't get to go to the dance. And the only thing I did, I looked at them and said, you'll never win the game without me. So they said, you play in the game, you don't get to be in the parade, and you don't get to go to the dance. Well, that afternoon is the parade, and my dad, being a contractor, Barnes Builders, was giving us a truck to drive for the parade. I was the driver.
So you were in the parade, but you weren't.
I didn't tell anybody that I was the driver. They said, you're not in the parade, so now here it's parade time, and there's no truck. They told me I couldn't be in the parade, so I didn't tell anybody that, hey, you better find another driver. So, but we won the game. I had one of the greatest games I've ever played. And Chris Lilly made some great plays in that game. I threw 4 touchdown passes. We just couldn't miss. It'd be 4th and long, and I'd hit him, and we'd get a first down or score a touchdown. And so that was my kind of stick to the administration.
So obviously you had a lot of success in high school, so people started to notice you. Colleges, what ones reached out to you?
My very first letter that I ever received was from the University of Nebraska at Omaha, and I remember taking that in to my high school coach and said, "Who is this? I never heard of him." And he's like, "Oh no, that's a good conference, a good school, it's a good place." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Well, I just kept that and put it in the pile. And I'd get a lot of letters and stuff. And I made the trip to Iowa State University, and I was the only quarterback that was brought in on that particular day. And so I thought, oh hey, maybe there's a chance. Where I really wanted to play was the University of Northern Iowa. Terry Allen was the quarterback coach at that point in time, and I used to go into him and I'd get his workouts for his quarterbacks, and I would do his quarterbacks workouts. And this is when I was a senior in high school, because this is what I kind of wanted to do. I got recruited by junior colleges too. I made some trips of that. I'd get letters from the University of Iowa. I got stuff from the rest of the North Central Conference, Morningside,
Yep.
Wartburg, schools like that. And then I was taken out. My parents and we went to the University of Nebraska Omaha for a visit. We went out there, and I really liked it. And then they offered me a scholarship right there. And so we went home Sunday morning. I then said, okay, that's where I'm going. And I give my mom credit, because right after that, Wartburg and Waverly called my parents and said, we really want Rick to come here. And my mom said, nope, he's made his decision. And so she didn't tell me about that phone call for a long time after. And I'm thankful, because it turned out good for me, obviously.
Because do you think you would have went to Wartburg?
I don't know. Back then, Omaha was 4 hours away, 250 miles away. That's kind of a long way away. You went away. And so, but because I knew Wartburg was a smaller school, Division III, I probably would have started right away. I also knew at UNO they had a kid that was coming back as a senior who was pretty good. Because even when they recruited me, they told me, we got a senior, but you maybe will be playing when you're a sophomore. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to go do that.
I want to go back. How did you ever pick the number 11?
Well, in high school, when you're a sophomore, you pick your number and you keep that number all 3 years. And so it's either you were an even number or an odd number, because the other class would have.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted number 10.
Because Fran
Tarkington.
But you were the odd year.
It was the odd year, so I had to get number 11. Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
So then going into, so obviously you said freshman year, did you play at all? Did you see the field at all?
As varsity, no. And but we made the playoffs. And my coach sat me down before the playoffs, and he goes, "You're still number 3 on the depth chart, but if something happens to Randy Naran was the quarterback, he goes, you're going in." But he didn't want to upset the whole, junior college, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
and
like
there's
the
people
above
me, and the starting quarterback knew, I knew, the coaches knew, but the kid that was second on the depth chart didn't know it. But luckily, Randy never got hurt, so I never played as a freshman. I traveled. There was only 2 freshmen that traveled back then, myself and then my roommate, who was a defensive tackle. He actually played. Mm-hmm. So there was only 2 of us that made the trips, but that was a good year. And I roomed with Randy, the starting quarterback. Learned a lot from him.
And then, so your sophomore year, or just sophomore to junior, did you start sophomore year?
Yep. Sophomore year, there's a redshirt junior coming back, quarterback. And then there was the kid that was ahead of me on the depth chart before. Well, that kid that was ahead of me on the depth chart before, he moved to tight end. So the first game of the year, we played Kearney State, and Scott Jamison was the quarterback. No. First game of the year was Central Missouri. Scott Jamison was the quarterback. We were doing pretty good. Then the coach put me in late in the game, and I audibled to a quick slant because they were coming on a blitz. I hit the guy. He went 60 yards for a touchdown. And I remember after the game, I went up to my head coach, and I shook his hand. And I said, "Thank you for letting me play." You never know. Mm-hmm. And so the next week, we traveled to Kearney. I'm still the second string quarterback. The score is 6-3. We're losing. And late in the game, like 4 minutes left in the game, I keep thinking, okay, come on, man, you gotta put me in. You gotta put me in. Finally put me in. Just under 4 minutes left in the game. They scored. They kicked their other field goal to put them ahead, and he put me in. And I'll be dang, we drive all the way down. We get to the goal line, and back then we signaled in plays. And being the second string quarterback, you were the one that signaled them in. We get down there, and we're in the heavy package where we bring in an extra guard as a fullback. That's called Ram. and we were running the ball up the gut. And we were like, I don't know, second and goal on the 1 or the 2. But I had James Quates, one of my wideouts, who was a split out there, and he was one-on-one. He was one-on-one at the end zone, and I'm turned back to the coaches, and I give the signal for 99, which is a fade pass. And they looked at me, and they pointed to me, so I called the fade pass, completed the pass, touchdown, won the game. It was good. So then after that game, Sunday we had film, and then the press was out there, and so they interviewed me after they got done with the press conference or the interview, and the guy looks at me and he goes, "Do you think you should start?" And I said, "Yeah." I walk away, turn around, who's right behind me? My head coach. I started the next game.
Mm-hmm. So then, did you guys so obviously you had a lot of success in high school. How did you guys do in your next 3 years of college when you actually?
Well, my freshman year we were 10-2, pretty good team. My sophomore year we were 5-6. That's the first time in my life I was never on a winning team. Then we went 6-5, and then we went 7-4.
So obviously I know, but the listeners don't know. When was it that you met Mom for the first time, and then actually started to like, or when was the first time you heard the name Allie Newsome?
Wow, we had a class together, and I think it was
what year, or I mean, not like the number.
It must have been going into my junior year.
Since you'd have been a senior, right?
Yeah. So going into my junior year, we had the care and prevention of athletic injury class together, and the teacher was the female head trainer. And Allie came, and in one of the very first days of class, the teacher asked me to bring my equipment in, shoulder pads, helmet. She was going to do a thing about proper fitting equipment. Well, 2-a-days just got over with.
What's there?
So they were smelling pretty good. She makes Allie put them on, and I was quite embarrassed. But obviously she got through it. And then, like the next class or whatever, Allie sits next to me. And if you know anything about Allie, she sits in the front of the class. And if you know anything about me, I sit in the back of the class. So here she comes. She sits back to me at the back of the class. And we're watching a movie about knee surgery. And I don't handle blood and all that stuff very well. So I was going to pass out, and I knew I was going to pass out. But I also knew, because the classroom was right off the field house, there was a high jump pits in the corner. And I knew I got to get to those because I got to. And so I just got up and left and walked out. As I'm walking out, there's a class going on, and they're standing out there in the field house doing something. And I just hit the dirt. They call 911. The ambulance comes. They transport me to the hospital. This whole time, Allie or the instructor have no idea that I left and I passed out. So, obviously, there's a big thing in the paper. The quarterback passes out and blah, blah, blah. Well, so then in that class, we had to have a partner because you tape ankles, you tape knees, things like that. And I really wanted her to be my partner, but I was embarrassed. I mean, my God, I got to wear a size 14 shoe. I didn't want to look at my feet. So I did it with some other guy. But then that's basically how I met her. And then I knew she played volleyball. I'd see her in the training room and stuff, and then they would practice there in the field house. So when we were done with practice, we'd walk through the field house to go to chow table. So I'd always see her and, smile at her. But I also knew she had a boyfriend. So, yeah, but that's kind of how I first met her.
So then when did things actually become an actual?
Then that next May, April, May, somewhere around there, my best friend back home was a wrestler. And I knew Allie's boyfriend, which actually was a fiance at the time, was a wrestler from Iowa. And I ran into her just outside the coach's office, and I was going to ask her, hey, does Brad know Joel or whatever? And she's like, well, he's not my fiance anymore. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I just left. But the kicker, Greg Morris, was dating the setter on the volleyball team. And we kind of got talking, and next thing you know, they kind of set us up. And so then we kind of went on a double date with them. And so we dated, I guess, a couple of times because, at the beginning of May 5th or whatever, school was done. So I went home for the summer. So then I went home for the summer. Then I returned for my senior year. Then I checked, Allie and I, we sent cards or whatever, talked a couple of times. But I asked my kicker. I said, "What's Allie up to?" "Oh, she's dating some engineer." And I'm like, "Well, that's a no-brainer for me." But then she had talked to Angie, the setter, and word got back to Greg and tell me, "Oh, you need to ask her out again. You need to ask her out again." So I did, and then just after Christmas time, I proposed to her and married her in the next June.
That's real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So then, obviously, you had 3 kids and ended up coming to Owatonna, and then you also coached the majority of mine and Jake's teams. Why did you coach? Why did you coach them?
Well, when we first went to the very first stuff, God bless the people. They were trying to coach, the dads and the moms, but they didn't have the experience that I did. And I thought, well, I'm coming to the game anyway. Why not? Why not help? Why not show? Why not teach? And I love doing that. So obviously, I coached you. I coached your brother. We did a little bit for Casey. Allie did some of her stuff too. But I just love doing it. Baseball, football, basketball, whatever you guys were doing, I was in.
I remember you had to be our interim soccer coach because I didn't show up for picture day.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything about soccer. But yeah, whatever needed to be done.
Yeah, all I remember from soccer is one time I got kicked, that the ball got kicked and hit me right in the nose. I wanted to walk off the field because I'm like, this is dumb. I hate it. I wanted to walk off. So I mean, obviously, when I think of like my favorite coach, it's hands down you. Just because not just because you're your dad, but I thought you were like one of the best coaches that I've had. What do you like? So, well, let me ask. What was your favorite sport to coach out of the ones you did?
Well, obviously football.
Yeah, I guess. What are your memories of? Let's just make it about me. What memories of me do you have when it came to? Try to think of one for each sport that you coached me.
Well, football. There's a number of them about football. What I remember the most about you, Luke, back then you were one of the smallest kids. You were smart. You were very intelligent. You were very coachable. You just didn't have the size, the strength, and the speed of some of your friends. But I was never afraid to put you in any situation because I knew you could handle the situation. Sometimes you would get challenged because if you couldn't win, you didn't like that. But I'll never forget the time against A.J. Rohde. A.J. was a year older than you, but he outweighed you by probably 100 pounds, maybe.
I'll say probably more than that.
Yeah. And so you're playing...
And he probably had a foot on me.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. You were playing center because I rotated all the kids. You would play offensive line. You'd be one of the backs. You'd be one of the wide receivers. I didn't make you, okay, you're just this position. I rotated them because I never knew who was going to do what. And I remember telling you, Luke, snap the ball. All you got to do is fall down. And here you are, this itty-bitty kid. You'd snap the ball, you'd fall down, AJ'd fall over the top of you. Because he couldn't pick his feet up. He just wasn't very gifted. That's another one. And then the other one was when you were nose guard. And I can't remember who the center was. But you would smoke him. You would get around, you would sack Sheridan. Sheridan was a quarterback. You would sack him all the time. You would always get past him. So those are the good things that I remember about you. The baseball part was your wicked curveball. You would throw your curveball, and it was a big bender. It was a slow off-speed bender, and the kids would just freeze because they just couldn't. And then the other bad part was the umpires would call it a ball before it even got to home plate because it would be such a big bender. And the day that you were playing, I don't know, you maybe 9th grade, and was it the tie game? Or you walked in the winning run.
Mm-hmm.
And you threw a bender. You threw a big bender, and I'm sitting back there as a dad going, why in the world is he throwing a bender when he needs to throw a strike? And I asked you after, and you said, it's my best pitch. Like, can't argue with that. But, again, I thought the umpire called it a ball before it crossed the plate.
Because he wasn't expecting
it.
Yeah, that was one that I regretted, but, I mean, it was my best pitch.
And then I got a basketball one for you, too. I wasn't coaching you at the time. You were playing at Waseca, and I think you were a freshman in high school. I think.
Oh, was it the time I never came out?
Yes.
That was, it was Darren was coaching in 7th grade.
Okay. And I told you, I remember telling you, because you were short on players or whatever, I said, Luke, don't ever ask to come out. Don't ever ask to come out. You played the entire game, and you were a rock star. And you, at the end of the game, you knew that you played the whole game. And I remember you looking at me like, Dad, I just played the whole game. And I was just so proud of you because I knew that was not an easy thing for you, but you did it.
Oh yeah, I wanted to come out, and I just didn't like the coach, and I don't even remember. I feel like we lost, but I don't remember.
I couldn't tell you either. But it's funny. I can still see your face.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite team of mine to coach?
I think it was your 6th grade year of football, where you had Stick, Derek, and Travis.
I think it was 5th grade, because 6th grade I was Perkle. We were black. Black jerseys.
I thought it was green.
Maybe we were green.
Yeah.
Green was my first year of flag. That was with Kyle Melcher, Casey Dean.
Oh yeah, that was a good team.
That was look at where they went now.
Yeah,
that was a great
legit
team.
Good team.
Because it was that, and then it was yellow. I don't remember very much from that. I think we had Stick and Derek on that team, because that was when we played Travis and you told Stick to watch over. Yeah. And then I think it was, I thought it was black with Travis, Stick, and then Derek.
It might have been. That was one of my best years. That was
why was that one?
Because I had all the neighborhood kids.
That was something good too.
And more important to me was the neighborhood football games in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Those days when I got to play football with my boys in the backyard, priceless.
Yeah, for those that don't know, we had in our childhood home, we had a pretty big backyard that we made a football field, and we had a bunch of good friends around us that luckily I got to play with sports from, elementary all the way up through high school, and we would play football in the backyard, and of course we had the college quarterback to play our quarterback. Yeah, that's one of the best childhood memories, and then also Sandlot across the street every once in a while. You'd come in wearing your work clothes, and you'd come up left-handed because we had to do some sort of to make sure you weren't as good, but you'd still hit home runs all the time.
Those were some of the best days. And me just watching you boys, because I just know what you created then, and you'll never get that again. And that was like me growing up when I wanted to play football, and I was too young and too small to ask, but I finally did. And what you guys did, and you guys are still close, and you still talk about it today, that's just awesome.
Yeah. So last question, for people that are thinking about being their coach for like their kids or young, what advice do you have for them?
That's a big one. Love every kid. Don't judge kids. Don't peg them. Don't think, oh, this kid can't do this. Give them an opportunity. That's all the kids need, is an opportunity to succeed. Obviously, you don't want to put them in a bad position, but coach them up. I got to coach the 7th and 8th grade kids for the last few years.
7th and 8th grade football kids, like the past few years,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Coach them up. Give them an opportunity. I see too many coaches label a kid, he can't do that. Give him a chance. You never know. We would have times in the game it would be critical, and the other guy that was coaching with me, he would say, oh, you got to switch. You got to get the A-team in there. You got to get the first stringers in there. I'm like, no, we're okay. Give them a shot. What the heck? Worst thing, they don't win. But the best thing is they might have learned something to make them so the next time they're in that situation, they can win.
Yeah, because I always think of the time, I mean, we've said this before, you were the guy that put Paul Seidelin in center field. And I mean, I don't know if he did, but I'm sure he probably made the all conference kind of thing, because he had the game-winning hit junior year to get to state, and he was always just one of our studs on. He's a great outfielder.
And Sheridan, he begged to play shortstop, and I wouldn't let him play shortstop. And the biggest reason why, or there are two reasons. One, left-hander to play shortstop is tough, but more importantly, he was so valuable as an outfielder. And to me, I knew Sheridan could succeed there, just like I knew Paul would succeed, because Paul used to be shortstop. But I knew I had Travis, and Travis was a good, solid shortstop and a good leader.
And then Stick was also a good infielder.
Yes. And so I just knew they had gifts and talents, and that's where I just wanted to put them in a spot where I know that they could be successful.